There are a Confucian revival in China now. We can see there are a few different dimensions. The first is the economic dimension with an economic miracle in 1980s. That's the Asian tigers. So there's as a response to Max Weber's thesis on Protestant ethic and the spiritual capitalism. So there's a debate on Confucianism and capitalism in Asia. A few very top scholars joined this debate, like Peter Berger and the Chinese historian Yu Yi from Princeton. Yu even wrote a new book about Confucianism and Asian capitalism, or Chinese capitalism. And the second is the cultural dimension. In the 1980s, Christianity was thought as a source of the westernization or modernization in China. So a lot of scholars try to promote Christian culture. But in 1990s, there's a trend to cultural conservatism with the rising of Chinese nationalism. And the third is the political dimension. That means ideological shift from Marxism to cultural nationalism with the China economic growth. And I think President Hu's calling for a harmonious society is a symbol of this trend. The fourth is the religious dimension, with a few scholars try to make Confucianism a religion and even a state religion in China. And there's also a national celebration of Confucius' birthday every year, and also a lot of popular belief of Confucian in China, like to let children to recite the Confucian classics and some Confucian society, and we know Confucianism is really a religion in Hong Kong and in East Asia, so with different meanings. And the last is the global dimension with the Confucius Institutes all over the world. In fact, the first time I came to the United States is invited by the Confucius Institute of University of Maryland. So it's very interesting now with so lot of Confucian institutes. Though they just, their main job is to teach Chinese, but for most people it means an export of China's soft power. So for these 5 dimensions, which one is most important? It's really hard to tell. For I think the Chinese are very good at synthesis rather than distinction. So always with a single event, we can say it's a combination of different dimensions. I can show you something. That's the famous star, I promise. So this lady, I don't think she is beautiful either from Chinese or American perspective, but she is very famous for teaching Confucian classics in CCTV. That's China's central television station. So she really became a star as a very famous professor in Beijing Normal University now. So you can tell this as a cultural dimension or entertainment dimension or economic dimension. It's very hard to tell. And this one is more interesting. After the 2 World Buddhist Forums and 1 Taoist World Forum, the former director of SARA, Mr. Ye Xiaowen, sponsored a World Forum on Confucianism in Confucius' hometown last year. That's Nishan Mountain. So with that forum, there's also a consecration of Confucius in this place. And they built this new city. So it's like traditional China. And you can see they dressed like the traditional way. So it's very sometimes you can say it's beautiful, but for most Chinese, it's an economic thing. It's not a cultural matter.